At first glance, it looks like a scene of Renaissance luxury, a private picnic in the hills, fine wine being poured, and a moment of intimate affection between a wealthy man and a beautiful woman. It is a conversation galante, the height of 16th century elegance. But lift your eyes just a few inches, and the world is ending. Ships are sinking into a boiling sea, and a great city is collapsing into the abyss. This is the work of an unknown Netherlandish master. It is a painting that should not make sense, where the most horrific catastrophe in the Bible is treated as a mere backdrop for a seductive party. Painted around 1530, during a time of religious upheaval and social anxiety, this masterpiece captures a world that felt like it was sliding toward destruction. Today we step inside the Louvre to uncover the mystery of Lot and his daughters. Why is the disaster receding into the background? And what is the dark secret hidden in the wine being poured in the foreground? That's what we are going to discover in this new episode of Story Behind the Painting.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art works and learn a lot from that.
The artist wants us to start here in the immediate foreground. Look at the way the wine is being poured, a graceful, fluid motion that feels almost dance-like, but those big round jars are heavy. The artist is showing us the physical effort of decanting the wine, making it feel real, tangible, and dangerously tempting. Then we see the patriarch himself, Lot. He's dressed in expensive furs, looking more like a 16th century nobleman than a biblical nomad. He is being embraced, but there is something unsettling about the scene. To a viewer in the year 1530, this wasn't just a family portrait, it was a motif of the unequal couple. In Northern Renaissance art, these unequal couple paintings were often satirical, a warning that old men are easily fooled by wine and beauty. Notice the iron brazier at their feet. It's a tiny detail, but it tells us the sun is setting and the temperature is falling. The servants have set up the tents and poured the wine in anticipation of a long night. It's an atmosphere of tendre intimacy, but one built on a foundation of deception. The story from Genesis is dark. Lot's daughters believe they are the only people left on earth. To preserve their lineage, they decide to get their father drunk so drunk that he won't know what is happening. Reformers like John Calvin used this story to rail against excessive drinking, calling it a vice that invites the wrath of God. But here the artist paints the scene with such little prejudice that it feels almost like a dream. It's a picnic where the guests are ignoring the fact that their home is currently an inferno just a few miles away. But how did they get here? To find out, we have to look past the silk and the wine, into the shadows of the middle ground. While Lot drinks in the foreground, his world is literally dissolving. Look at the perspective here. The city isn't just burning, it's tilting. It looks like a slowly capsizing platform, sliding leftward into a dark, bottomless sea. For the biblical viewer, this was the fire of God's wrath. But for the artist, it was a masterclass in visual contrast. They've painted a rain of fire streaking downward like a bombardment from above. In the harbor, ships are breaking up and sinking, and the church towers are collapsing into the waves. This style of painting is what historians call a universal landscape. It wasn't meant to be a map of the Holy Land, it was an artificial construct. It combines elements that don't belong together, towering alpine rocks, a flat Dutch coastline, and a sky that belongs in a nightmare. The artist was likely influenced by Joachim Patinier, the pioneer of this genre. It's a landscape that feels like it's being viewed from a great height, a God's eye view of a world that has failed. There's a hidden layer of 16th century trash talk here. During the Reformation, many Northern Europeans, including Martin Luther, didn't just see this as a story about the past. To them, Sodom was Rome. By painting the destruction of a depraved city in the latest architectural style, the artist was pointing a warning finger at the church of the time. They were saying, if you don't change your ways, your towers will be the next to fall. But nestled between the drunken picnic and the falling city, there is one final haunting detail, a bridge, a donkey, and a woman who couldn't help but look back. Between the fire and the wine, we find the bridge. Here, the story of Lot is told a second time. We see the family escaping like refugees, a donkey laden with their only remaining possessions. And there she is, Lot's wife. She is a tiny, haunting vertical line against the horizontal bridge. For the crime of looking back at her burning home, she is frozen into a pillar of salt, a permanent monument to the past in a painting that is obsessed with the present. So who paid for this? Who wanted to look at this strange mix of apocalypse and erotica every day? The truth is, we don't know. There are no contracts, no signatures, and no names. Because the artist is an unknown master, the patron remains a ghost. However, we can guess. This was likely a private commission for a wealthy merchant in Antwerp or Leiden. It's too small for a church and too scandalous for a public hall. It was meant for a private cabinet, a room where a sophisticated collector could debate the painting's layers, the politics of the Reformation, the morality of the Bible, and the breathtaking beauty of a world in ruins. Acquired by the Louvre in 1900, the painting continues to fascinate us because it mirrors our own anxieties. It shows us that even when the horizon is on fire, humanity often chooses to look away, to the wine, to the embrace, to the dream. It's a masterpiece that reminds us the end of the world is rarely a sudden crash. Often it's just a backdrop to a very long, very quiet picnic. In 1530, this wasn't just a story from the past, it was a headline. Johannes Gutenberg's printing press had recently put the Bible into the hands of the people for the first time. They were reading these shocking stories with fresh eyes, finding a God of wrath and a world on the brink. To a viewer during the Reformation, this painting felt dangerously modern. Reformers like Martin Luther used the image of a falling Sodom as a coded warning against the depraved cities of their own time. This was the apocalypse as a political thriller. The world felt like it was sliding towards destruction, and this painting was the mirror held up to that anxiety. The painting eventually vanished into private hands, only to resurface in 1900 when it was acquired by the Louvre. But the world had changed. We were no longer looking for religious warnings. We were looking for the imagery of our dreams. At the turn of the 20th century, art historians turned detective. They debated its origins. Was it Lucas van Leyden or Joachim Patinier? The mystery of its unknown master only added to its allure. Early modern critics were obsessed with how the artist captured the subconscious. They saw the smooth surface of the water and the solitary tree as elements that emerge from a dream, a precursor to surrealism painted 4 centuries before its time. Whether in 1530 or 1900, the impact of this work remains the same. It fascinates us because it captures a fundamental human paradox, the ability to seek tender intimacy and celebrate life even while the horizon is quite literally on fire. In the end, this unknown Netherlandish master left us with more than just a biblical illustration. He left us a psychological study. By placing a catastrophic ending and a seductive beginning on the same piece of wood, he captured the vertigo of being human. We live in the middle ground, somewhere between the pillars of salt we've become and the fires on our own horizons. It is a painting that reminds us that even in our darkest hours, we search for beauty, for connection, and sometimes for a way to simply forget the world is falling. Every brushstroke tells a story, and every gallery holds 1,000 secrets just like this one. If you want to unlock the hidden meanings, the scandals, and the genius behind the world's greatest masterpieces, there's a companion for your journey. Download the Muzea app today. From the halls of the Louvre to the hidden gems of the Renaissance, discover the stories that shaped our culture. The world of art is waiting. See you in the next episode.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art routes and learn a lot from that.